Undercover in his own restaurants, one man uncovers truths that change everything. The evening rush at Southern Hearth Bistro, a bustling soul food restaurant in Memphis, was in full swing. The scent of fried catfish and buttery cornbread drifted out to the parking lot, where a man in ragged clothes lingered, leaning against a lamppost. His beard was unkempt, his hoodie torn at the elbows, and he clutched a battered duffel bag that had seen better days. To any onlooker, he appeared to be just another homeless man, one of many who slipped through the cracks of society. But inside that disheveled disguise was Alex Johnson, the proud owner of Southern Hearth and 8 other thriving locations across the South. Over the past 25 years, he'd built his empire from scratch, driven by a passion for food and a deep commitment to his community. He wasn't just serving meals, he was creating gathering places where neighbors became family. Now, nearing 60, Alex was grappling with the question of legacy. Who would carry on his vision? His children weren't interested, and hiring an outsider felt wrong. He wanted someone who understood what Southern Hearth stood for: hard work, compassion, and treating everyone, staff and customers alike, with respect. Resumes wouldn't show that, and neither would boardroom interviews. So here he was, undercover and nervous, stepping into his own restaurants not as their owner, but as a nobody. He wanted to see his staff through a different lens, to learn who they were when no one was watching. This wasn't just a whim, it was his plan to find the next leader of Southern Hearth. Alex's heart thumped as he pushed the door open. Warmth and chatter enveloped him. A young hostess glanced at him, hesitated, and then smiled. "Hi, sir. Can I help you?" she asked kindly, her voice unsure but polite. He didn't answer immediately, taking a moment to absorb the scene. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about ensuring Southern Hearth continued to thrive long after he was gone. But Alex wasn't prepared for what he'd uncover. Not just the good, but the heartbreaking, the ugly, and the utterly unexpected. Alex sat near the back of the restaurant, choosing a corner table that gave him a clear view of the floor. He shuffled in his seat, his rough clothing blending with the worn duffel bag at his feet. The restaurant buzzed with life. Servers darted between tables balancing trays, the clinking of utensils mixed with soft chatter, and laughter occasionally rose above the hum. A waitress named Mia approached him, her brow furrowing slightly as she took in his appearance. "Welcome to Southern Hearth," she said, her voice warm despite her obvious hesitation. "What can I get for you?" Alex looked up, meeting her gaze. "Just water," he mumbled, lowering his eyes to sell the act. Her smile wavered, but she nodded. "Of course. Let me know if you need anything else." As Mia walked away, Alex noticed another server nearby. A young man named Travis leaned against the counter, scrolling on his phone, while an elderly customer struggled to catch his attention. Alex's jaw tightened, but he reminded himself he wasn't here to judge. Yet. Over the next few days, Alex moved from restaurant to restaurant in his chain. He stayed long enough at each location to observe the staff's behavior under pressure. At the Baton Rouge location, he saw a dishwasher, Rosa, step into bus tables when the servers fell behind. She didn't complain, just rolled up her sleeves and got to work. But it wasn't all inspiring. At a spot in Jackson, Mississippi, Alex overheard 2 cooks arguing loudly in the kitchen, their spat spilling into the dining area. Customers exchanged uneasy glances, and the manager, Dennis, pretended not to notice. Alex scribbled notes in a small, tattered notebook he kept hidden in his bag. One evening, at the Birmingham location, something unexpected happened. Alex had been sitting quietly, watching a server named Danielle juggle 4 tables with remarkable grace. A young mother with 2 children struggled to keep them calm, clearly overwhelmed. Danielle crouched beside the table and spoke softly to the kids, pulling crayons and paper from her apron. The children beamed, and the mother's shoulders relaxed as she thanked Danielle profusely. Alex felt a pang in his chest. That's what Southern Hearth was about, making people feel seen, cared for, even in small ways. But just as Alex began to piece together who might be worthy of leading his legacy, an incident occurred that threatened to expose his entire plan. It was Alex's second week undercover, and he was back at the Memphis location, the one closest to his heart. He hadn't announced his arrival to anyone. He simply slipped into a corner booth the same way he had at every other restaurant. By now, his routine was second nature. Observe, take notes, and remain invisible. The evening crowd was picking up, and Alex watched as a young couple debated over the menu. A family celebrated a birthday, and a group of friends laughed over a shared plate of wings. He was about to turn his attention back to the staff when he heard it, a sharp voice cutting through the hum of the room. "Hey, don't waste your time with him," a server named Peter sneered, his gaze darting toward Alex. "He's not tipping. Probably doesn't even have $1 to his name." Alex's chest tightened. He'd been careful to stay in character, but this was the first time someone had openly mocked him. Mia, the same waitress who had greeted him with kindness on his first visit, stepped forward. "That's not how we treat people, Peter," she said firmly, her tone laced with disappointment. Peter rolled his eyes. "Come on, Mia. We're already slammed. Why waste energy on someone like that?" Mia didn't flinch. "Because it's the right thing to do," she shot back before turning her attention to Alex. "Sir, I'm so sorry about that. Can I get you anything?" Alex shook his head, feeling a mixture of pride and anger. Mia had passed the test in a way he hadn't anticipated, but Peter's behavior gnawed at him. How many others shared that attitude, hiding it behind polite smiles when they thought someone important was watching? The moment might have passed without incident if it weren't for what happened next. A middle-aged man in a sharp suit entered the restaurant, and Alex recognized him immediately. Earl, the district manager. Earl's gaze swept the room, pausing on Alex for a fraction of a second before moving on. Alex stiffened. Earl didn't know about his undercover plan, but he knew Alex well enough to spot him if he looked too closely. Alex kept his head down, but Earl began making his way toward the back. The tension in Alex's chest built with each step. When Earl finally reached his table, he leaned in and whispered, "Alex, is that you?" Alex froze, his cover blown in an instant. Before he could respond, Earl's expression shifted from confusion to understanding, then disbelief. "What are you doing dressed like this?" The room seemed to tilt, and Alex felt every pair of eyes in the restaurant turn toward them. The staff, the customers, even Mia. They all stared, their curiosity palpable. Alex stood slowly, his mind racing. There was no point in denying it now. "I'll explain later," he muttered to Earl before addressing the staff. "I'm Alex Johnson. I own this restaurant, and all the others." Gasps rippled through the room, and the murmur of conversations faded into stunned silence. Alex's gaze swept across his employees, landing briefly on Peter, whose face had gone pale. He turned to Mia, who looked more confused than anything else. "Why didn't you just tell us you were coming?" Earl asked, his voice still low. Alex sighed. "Because I needed to see how things really are when no one's putting on a show. And now I think I've seen enough." But the fallout from Alex's revelation would challenge not only the staff, but also Alex himself, forcing him to confront the unexpected consequences of his undercover journey. The aftermath of Alex's revelation left the restaurant buzzing with tension. Peter avoided eye contact, retreating to the kitchen, while Mia stood frozen near Alex's table, unsure whether to approach or give him space. Earl, still trying to wrap his head around the situation, urged Alex to follow him to the office for privacy, but Alex shook his head. "No," Alex said, his voice steady but firm. "I'm saying what I need to say right here." He stepped forward, addressing the entire staff and customers who had paused their meals to eavesdrop. "For the past 2 weeks, I've been visiting every single one of my restaurants, dressed like this," Alex began, gesturing to his tattered clothes. "Not because I don't trust my team, but because I wanted to see who you all are when you think no one's watching." Murmurs rippled through the staff. Some looked confused, others nervous, and a few curious. Mia's expression softened, as though pieces of a puzzle were falling into place. "I've seen amazing things," Alex continued, his voice carrying an undercurrent of emotion. "I've watched cooks step out of the kitchen to help servers during a rush. I've seen dishwashers go above and beyond their job descriptions. And I've seen acts of kindness, like a meal paid for by one of you out of your own pocket, because that's the heart of Southern Hearth." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "But I've also seen things that broke my heart, like disrespect, toward customers, toward each other. This place wasn't built on cutting corners or treating people like they don't matter. It was built on hard work and respect." Peter, still lingering by the kitchen door, shifted uncomfortably. Alex didn't call him out directly, but the weight of his earlier behavior hung in the air. Taking a deep breath, Alex continued, "I didn't do this to embarrass anyone. I did it because I'm looking for someone to lead Southern Hearth when I step back. Someone who understands what this place means, not just to me, but to the community." Eyes widened across the room. The weight of his words wasn't lost on anyone. He was searching for an heir, and suddenly, every action over the past few weeks felt like it had been put under a microscope. Alex turned his gaze to Mia. "Mia, you've shown me what leadership looks like. Standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. You reminded me why I started this business in the first place." Mia's eyes filled with tears, her hands trembling as she pressed them to her chest. "Mr. Johnson, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Alex replied with a small smile. "But I'm not handing you the reins just yet. Leadership isn't a gift. It's earned every day. I'm offering you the chance to train under me, to learn what it takes to run Southern Hearth, not just as a business, but as a family." Mia nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. The room erupted into applause, and even some of the customers joined in. But Alex's gaze shifted to the rest of the team, his expression serious. "This isn't just about one person," he said. "Every single one of you plays a part in what makes Southern Hearth special. I'll be making changes to ensure we all stay true to that vision. But let me be clear. Kindness, respect, and hard work aren't optional here. They're the foundation of everything we do." But while the applause settled and the excitement dimmed, Alex knew this wasn't the end. There was still work to be done, not just for Mia, but for the entire team and himself. The restaurant gradually returned to its normal rhythm, but the atmosphere felt lighter, charged with a sense of renewal. Alex stood quietly for a moment, watching the staff move with a newfound energy. Mia, still wiping her eyes, smiled at a customer while balancing plates, her usual grace now carrying the weight of an extraordinary opportunity. Later that evening, when the restaurant was winding down, Alex gathered the team for a private meeting. Everyone crowded around, from the dishwashers to the line cooks, their expressions a mix of curiosity and anticipation. Even Peter, who had spent the rest of the shift in reflective silence, stood near the back, his gaze cast downward. Alex leaned against the counter, the tiredness of the day visible on his face, but softened by a glimmer of hope. "I want to leave you all with something to think about," he began, his voice calm but resonant. "This journey has taught me that legacy isn't about money, buildings, or even food. It's about the people you touch and the values you leave behind." He paused, letting the words settle before continuing. "Every one of us has the power to leave a mark on someone else's life, whether it's through a smile, a kind word, or doing the right thing even when no one's watching. That's what Southern Hearth is about. And if we forget that, then everything I've worked for, everything we've built together, means nothing." The room was silent, the weight of his words pressing on each person like a gentle reminder of their shared responsibility. Alex's eyes moved to Peter, who finally looked up, guilt and resolve mingling in his expression. "Peter," Alex said, addressing him directly for the first time since the incident. "You have a chance to be better. We all do. What matters is what you choose to do next." Peter nodded, his voice breaking as he said, "I'll do better. I promise." A small smile touched Alex's lips before he addressed the group again. "Mia may be stepping into a new role, but this is a team effort. If we support each other, we can keep this place as special as it's always been, and maybe even better." As the team disbanded for the night, Alex lingered near the doorway, watching them file out one by one. He felt a mix of pride and humility. The journey had been harder than he'd anticipated, but it had been worth it. Turning off the lights, Alex took one last look around the restaurant, the memories of his undercover mission still fresh in his mind. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, he felt hopeful about the future of Southern Hearth. So, what can we take from Alex's story? Legacy isn't about what you leave behind, it's about the lives you touch along the way. Let this inspire us to be kinder, to lead with compassion, and to always strive to be better. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that matter.